Quake, Disaster in San Francisco, 1906, Chapter 2, Part 2. Page 17, middle of the page. After a few minutes his father spoke again. His voice was even, but Jacob knew he was still angry. "The dog can stay here tonight, but he is not to sleep with Sophie. If she gets sick, Rose wouldn't want her in the same house with her babies. Tomorrow morning the dog goes. Is that clear, Jacob?" Jacob said nothing. "Don't be sad, Jacob," Sophie said. "We can see the doggy at Uncle Avy's house." "Uncle Avy can't keep him," Jacob mumbled. "So where will the doggy live?" Sophie said, her voice becoming high and shrill again. "Somebody will take the dog," Itzhak said. He held out his arms for Sophie to come to him. The little girl climbed into his lap and put her hand on his shoulder while he gently patted her back. When Jacob said that the food was ready, Itzhak carried Sophie to her chair and placed a plate in front of her. "Papa, none of the peddlers wants the dog," Jacob said as he took a seat at the table. "If I put him back on the street, he'll starve or get run over. He's not sick. He's only started trembling when you came home. He's scared of you." Sophie put down her fork. "Will the doggy get run over, Papa?" "The dog will be fine," Itzhak said calmly. He turned to Jacob and shot him a warning glance. "Will somebody take the doggy home?" Sophie asked. "Of course," Itzhak said. "Nothing bad will happen to the dog. Tomorrow morning, before school, Jacob will take it back to the produce district. The dog probably belongs to one of the peddlers." "He doesn't, Papa," Jacob said. "Uncle Avy said—" "Jacob, that's enough!" Itzhak roared. "Avram is not the head of this family. I am, and my answer is no. We have enough worries without a dog. I don't want to hear another word about it." Jacob took a mouthful of meat, but it stuck in his throat. He pushed his plate away. "There's plenty of fat in the pan to feed the dog, son. You're a growing boy, and you need to eat. I forbid you to waste your supper on a dog." Jacob didn't answer. He gave his father the angriest look he could manage and clenched his fists under the table. "Do you hear me, Jacob?" Jacob glared. "Jacob!" Itzhak shouted. "I'm not hungry," Jacob said, his voice sullen. Jacob looked from her brother to her father, and her lips began to quiver. Jacob knew his father would really go into a rage if she started to wail again, so he grabbed a chunk of bread and stuffed it into his mouth. He chewed mechanically. At last supper was over. While Itzhak got Sophie ready for bed, Jacob fed the scraps to the dog. He watched the animal gulp the meat, then lick up the grease. "Better enjoy this food while you can, fella," he thought. "Tomorrow you'll be out on the streets, and who knows what will happen to you then." Jacob blinked back tears, determined not to let his father catch him crying. "He'll tell me I'm acting like an idiot again, but I'm not the one who starts hollering whenever anybody tries to make a suggestion." Gathering the dirty dishes, Jacob let his mind dwell on all the terrible things he wanted to say. "Look at this dump. My father thinks he's such a genius. If he's so smart, why do we live in such a place? But what do I know about anything? I just happen to be the man's son. Does he ever listen when I make a suggestion? Oh, no. I'm the idiot. I should keep my mouth shut. Of course, when he needs something done, then he's nice to me. When it comes time to do deliveries every day, suddenly he treats me like I'm a man. Then he remembers I've had my bar mitzvah. Sure, Jacob is old enough to run home and check on Sophie. Jacob is smart enough to make the supper. Does he worry about how much time I spend on my schoolwork when he has chores for me to do?" Jacob filled the dishpan with water and let his darkest thoughts pour into his mind. He thought about the day Mamma died. How long it had taken the midwife to arrive. How Mamma had cried out. If Papa is such a genius, why didn't he bring home a midwife who knew how to stop the bleeding? The dog gave a lazy yawn and curled up in a corner. Jacob felt tired too. It seemed like these arguments with Papa wore him out faster than lugging pounds of meat up and down the hilly streets. Jacob wished he could curl up in the corner like a dog and never think again. He wished he could wash his mind clean of the last 4 months and go back to how it was when Mamma was alive, when Papa came home smiling every night, when Papa was proud of his only son. After the dishes were done, the dog followed Jacob past the chair where Papa sat mending Sophie's socks. As they neared Itzhak, the dog padded around in a wide circle to avoid brushing against the man's legs.